Hello and welcome. Tonight, former President Goodluck Jonathan asks Nigerians to reject politicians involved in electoral malpractices. Leader of the Niger Delta Forum in Nigeria, Pandef Edwin dies at 97 as President Bola Tinubu extols his virtue in nation building. National Assembly corrects errors in the 2025 appropriation bill, recommits for reconsideration. And Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov says that his country will not accept peacekeeping forces from NATO countries in Ukraine under any peace deal.
On business news, Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited denies reports of importing over 200 million litres of premium motor spirits in February this year.
On sports news tonight, Nigeria Basketball Federation unveils final roster for the week's FIBA Afro-Basket qualifiers as the Tigers hope to rescue their campaign in the third qualifying window.
And from the nation's capital, National Security Advisor Nuhu Ribadu hands over 59 rescued victims to the Benue State government. Former President Goodluck Jonathan is urging Nigerians to reject politicians involved in electoral malpractices. Dr. Jonathan gave this charge at the official launch of the two books authored by the former Inspector General of Police, Mr. Solomon Arase, in Abuja. The former president, who harped on the need for the advancement of the electoral management body in the country, also condemned the over-policing of electoral processes in Nigeria. Our correspondent Victoria Longjon reports.
Former President Goodluck Jonathan and his entourage make their way into this hall for the official launch of two books authored by the 18th Inspector General of Police, Mr. Solomon Arase. Amongst other dignitaries present are the presidential candidate of the Labour Party in the 2023 elections, Mr. Peter Obi, top-ranking officers present and retired from the police and army community, the political class, religious leaders, the academia, human rights, and other invited guests. The books, titled Readings on Election Security Management and Selected Readings on Internal Security, seeks to interrogate the complex dynamics of electoral security and governance in Nigeria.
First is to open up the intellectual space in relation to the intellectual, legal, and professional inputs into the field of democratic policing. Second is to equip police, the wider law enforcement community, the political class, and other strategic actors in some democratic space that the requisite knowledge that will not only engender quality election, security outcome, but acts as a framework to hold law enforcement operatives accountable. The outcome of these engagements, coupled with my experience as a former Inspector General of Police, as well as my legal background, clearly exposed me to the knowledge gap on the election security provision.
Former President Goodluck Jonathan is the chairman of the event and in his remarks harped on the need for Nigerians to reject the political class involved in electoral malpractices.
Here we willfully do the wrong thing and we with the Nigerians celebrate the wrong thing. And I believe one day the country will get to the level where people will reject bad behavior. And when we get to the level that we reject bad behavior, so this will not happen again. Most other countries, the military don't get involved in the day-to-day managing elections. Some of them, some countries, they use them to manage some strategic transportation system like the Air Force and the Army in very dangerous areas to convey material. But manning, pulling people, staying around, measures are never used.
His thoughts are also echoed by the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi.
If people decide that we have to leave off the situation we have, where we have become a crime scene and we are chasing criminals, the criminality will start from the politicians. doing the right thing. If we want to talk about security, talk about anything, when we stop stealing as public officers, the children and all those criminals will equally learn from us. And as policing will even do their work.
The books are then unveiled.
To the glory of God.
It is expected that the publications will address the knowledge gap in electoral management in Nigeria and provoke meaningful dialogue on election security. From Abuja, Victoria Longchan, Channels Television News.
In Benue State, the House of Assembly is divided over whether or not to remove the Chief Judge of the state, Justice Maurice Ikpebese. 13 of the 31-member Assembly have rejected the move, while the remaining 18 lawmakers backed the move. The Assembly is also recommending the swearing-in of Justice Teresa Igoche, who is the next most senior judge as the acting Chief Judge of the state. The debate over the removal of Justice Maurice Ikpebese follows a petition from Governor Hyacinth Alia accusing the state's Chief Judge of abuse of office, tampering with state local government election law, corruption, inciting judicial strike, bribery, and fraternizing with politicians.
25th of March, 2025, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Some raise their hand. And the next person in line should be sworn in immediately.
Thank you. There's a law, there's an electoral law that was passed by the State House of Assembly and assented to by the governor. Here is a man who went, even without any form of repeat to that law, any amendment to that law, and just moved a section out of that law and interpreted and gave it a waiver. That means he is trying to favor those who are in the tribunal in trying to get justice for whatever they want to do. So he has no integrity. As a matter of truth, he has no integrity of the law. But for whatever reason, he is not supposed to be there again.
The leader of the Pan-Niger Delta Forum in Nigeria, Pandef Edwin Clark, has died at the age of 97. A statement signed by Professor C.C. Clark on behalf of the family says Chief Clark died on Monday, February the 17th, 2025. The former Federal Commissioner for Information was a prominent figure in Nigerian politics, an advocate for the rights of the Niger Delta, a lawyer, administrator, nationalist, and freedom fighter. Prominent Nigerians have been paying tribute to the late elder statesman, with many visiting his residence in Abuja to condole with the family. Chief Clark's death is coming 4 days after another elder statesman, Pa Ayo Adebanjo, died. Our correspondent Benny Ark reports.
The Abuja residence of prominent Ijaw leader Pa Edwin Clark is a beehive of activities as visitors come in one after the other to commiserate with the families over the passing of the former Federal Commissioner of Information. Pa Edwin Clark is prominent for his stance on the issue of the Niger Delta region, and that is reflected in the tributes paid by some of the visitors to his home.
His departure should be a wake-up call to all of us. Restructuring continues. Nothing has changed because if we stop, we are just saying we are not grateful for what he has done.
We lost a warrior father, a father that everybody, all the minority, is someone that will be leading. He's a nationalist, a minority right crusader, and someone that believes in one Nigeria all the time of the struggle.
Over the years, Daddy Clark has become an institution of learning, and Daddy Clark has lived well. One of the qualities of a man that has lived well is to have successor. In fact, in the case of Daddy Clark, he has so many successors today.
His family members, led by his first daughter, also paid tribute to the virtues of the family patriarch.
So everything you need in a friend, everything you need in a father, he got all of them combined. He never forgets. I always say, he remembered my primary one teacher. I don't remember her name, but she will remember. And for his generation, there was a better Nigeria. So if you call your town, your community, when they were doing politics then, there was no politics of, anger. I will eat in my opponent's father's house or family house, and we'll go to the field and vote. So he told us many things like that.
Visitors also take time to pen down their thoughts on the man who never shies away from speaking his mind on the state of the nation.
We've lost a great leader, great father. We've lost actually a moving and breathing library. A moving and breathing library. Custodian of history, custodian of a lot of good things. So we've lost him.
He lived and died for Nigeria. He loved Nigeria. And he consistently preached and fought for a better governance of Nigeria based on justice, based on equity, based on care for all.
For the guests, the legacies left behind by Pa Clark is one that should be emulated, especially because he spoke truth to power tirelessly. Benny Ark, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, President Bola Tinubu has led tribute to the late PANDEF leader, Chief Edwin Clark. President Tinubu, in a condolence message signed by his spokesman, Bayo Ononuga, says he received the news of his passage with soberness. Nigeria's #1 citizen says that history will remember Chief Clark as a man who fought gallantly for the right of the people of the Niger Delta, unity in diversity, and true federalism. Describing Chief Clark as a man of conviction, President Tinubu says the educationist believes in a united Nigeria, and until his last breath, he never stopped reaching out to the people from different parts of the country to work together to preserve national unity based on justice and equity. The president adds that as an astute politician, Chief Clark's political opponents never doubted his words, weight, confidence, and conviction when he spoke. Development of the Niger Delta region, fiscal federalism, restructuring, and resource control are some of the causes Chief Edwin Clark stood for. While the elder statesman also served as a commissioner of education, a senator, Commissioner of Finance, Federal Commissioner for Information at different times in his career. Our next report captures some of his contributions to Nigeria's development.
President should establish a presidential commission on vacancy to provide better life for them.
Over the past few decades, Chief Edwin Clark has become a respected elder statesman, his voice resonating powerfully as he championed the development of the Niger Delta and the rights of the Ijaw people. He tirelessly advocated for resource control, arguing that the region should have greater autonomy over its natural resources, particularly oil and gas.
Look at the Petroleum Trust Fund. Could you imagine a situation where the fund which is generated from our own backyard is now being used in training every Nigerian? Out of the 1,002 candidates invited for doctoral degrees, only 14 came from the South, Niger Delta.
Chief Edwin Clark was also vocal about the devastating environmental impact of oil exploration, demanding stricter regulation and remediation efforts to protect the fragile ecosystem of the region. Chief Edwin Clark worked to promote peace and security in the Niger Delta. He consistently advocated for dialogue and reconciliation, condemning violence and militancy, and urging peaceful solutions to the region's complex challenges.
Let us maintain peace, which you have agreed to maintain. That's what I've said. So when I use the word caution, I'm saying it with emphasis, that there are hawks in the presidency, both in the military and in some of his advisors, who believe that the only way to solve the Niger Delta problem is to go outright to flush the boys out. But that would be a big mistake.
His advocacy extended beyond the Niger Delta. Chief Clark was a strong proponent of restructuring Nigeria, believing it's vital to address the imbalances and injustices that have plagued the nation for decades.
Restructuring of Nigeria for a better Nigeria is number one. You are not talking about your constitution. So your party said, look, let us put it in writing. It was in our manifesto. Let us set a committee to examine this issue of restructuring.
Chief Edwin Clark's political and civil rights philosophy was rooted in the principles of self-determination, resource control, development, environmental protection, peace, and restructuring. He will be remembered for his strong convictions and fearlessness in speaking out on national issues.
His legacy will definitely continue to live on, and our thoughts and prayers are with his family. In part two, after the break, National Assembly corrects errors in the 2025 appropriation bill, recommits for reconsideration. Please join us again. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, broadcasting live from Lagos. A reminder of our main stories. Former President Goodluck Jonathan asks Nigerians to reject politicians involved in electoral malpractices. Leader of the Niger Delta Forum in Nigeria, Pandef Edwin Clark, dies at 97 as President Tinubu extols his virtues in nation building. National Assembly corrects errors in the 2025 appropriation bill, recommits for reconsideration. And Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov says that his country will not accept peacekeeping forces from NATO countries in Ukraine under any peace deal. If you're one of those who believes that the 2025 appropriation bill is a done deal, then you've got another thing coming. And that's because the Senate today announced that it has identified and corrected errors in that bill, which was passed by both the Senate and the House of Representatives last Thursday. According to the lawmakers, the discrepancies were discovered during the final cleaning and realignment process by the Joint Committee on Appropriations. Our National Assembly correspondent, Gloria Omezoke, reports.
Just 3 days after lawmakers ratified the 2025 appropriation bill, the Senate has brought it back to the floor for corrections on the first day of plenary for the week.
Observation we make.
In a motion, Chairman of the Senate Committee on Appropriations, Senator Adiola Olamilekan, rescind an earlier decision.
That at the point of cleaning and realigning, the Joint Committee on Appropriation discovered some errors in the underlisted lines item passed by the Nigerian Senate and the House of Representatives.
Some of the key budget adjustments include the Ministry of Defense revised from 2.51 trillion naira to 2.49 trillion naira. Ministry of Police Affairs adjusted from 1.225 trillion naira to 1.224 trillion naira. Total pensions, gratuity and retirement benefits increased from 950 billion naira to 1.44 trillion naira. Military pensions and gratuities adjusted from 252.6 billion to 383.9 billion naira. National Pension Commission increased from 529.4 billion naira to 804.7 billion naira. Similarly, corrections were made in capital allocations, including reductions in the budgets for key ministries, including the presidency, reduced from 144.4 billion naira to 142.7 billion naira.
After every appropriation process, you could have some errors. Thank God they are very meticulous and they've been able to discover these errors at this point before the budget is even passed. Before the president has sent to it. For the stress we have taken you through as chairman of the committee, we say we are sorry, but it's just that we have no other choice than to go through this process.
That we rescind the decision on the affected items, the long title has passed, and recommit them to the Committee of Supply for immediate reconsideration and passage. Say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
As the Senate reviews and corrects its errors, the House of Representatives is also making simultaneous realignments.
The recurrent non-debt expenditure was increased to 13,582,673 naira, and the capital reduced to 23,339,251,993 624,000.
In spite of the adjustments, the total budget size remains 54.99 trillion naira, with statutory transfers and debt servicing figures unchanged for the 2025 fiscal year. Now, with these corrections to ensure adequate budgetary allocations to government ministries, agencies, and pension obligations, the 2025 budget is expected to be finalized and transmitted for assent and effective implementation. From the National Assembly, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News. Security agencies have been explaining their roles in the incident that played out at the Lagos State House of Assembly on Monday, where the lawmakers could not initially gain access to the chambers. The new Commissioner of Police in Lagos, Mr. Moshood Jimoh, says the duty of the command is to provide adequate security within the State Assembly. Speaking during his maiden briefing at the command headquarters in Ikeja, Mr. Jimoh explains that it is not the duty of the police to interfere in the activities of the hallowed chamber except the need arises.
We have adequate deployment to ensure security of the House of Assembly. If you go around there, you see team around there. But what goes on in the chambers of the House of Assembly or any assembly across the country is not responsibility of the police, except where we have complaints, which we now subject to investigation. It will be a disservice to us to say that we didn't ensure security. One agency is doing something that the police are supposed to do. No, we are fully on ground in maintaining law and order. We want you to continue to let the public know what we are doing so that we can remove the fear of crime from the minds of the public. Because
the arraignment of 34-year-old Chinese national Liu Zhang alongside a company, Genting International Company Limited, on charges bordering on alleged cybercrime, cyber-terrorism, possession of documents containing false pretenses and identity theft, among others, was stalled today at the Federal High Court, Lagos, owing to the absence of legal representation. Justice Olayinka Faji had asked Zhang if he had a lawyer to represent him, to which the defendant answered that he did not have one. The case was then adjourned to March the 13th, 2025 for the presentation of evidence of service for Genting International Co. Limited and the possible arraignment of Mr. Zhang. In another case of the Chinese national Zhang Hua Zai before the same court, the EFCC's counsel, Bilikisu Buhari Bala, asked the court not to grant the defendant's bail, saying he is a flight risk. After listening to the submissions of both the prosecution and defense counsel, Justice Faji adjourned the case till March the 18th, 2025 for ruling on the motion for bail and the commencement of trial. The news at 10 continues now as we head over to our Abuja studios, where Millicent Walker is standing by. Hello, Millicent.
Fine, thanks, Anne. We begin with the National Security Advisor, Mr. Nuhu Ribadu, who has handed over 59 rescued kidnapped victims to the Kaduna State government. The victims, who were kidnapped from various parts of the state, were handed over in Abuja after being rescued along the Abuja-Kaduna highway. Addressing journalists after a brief ceremony, Mr. Ribadu reaffirmed the commitment of the federal government rescuing other victims who are still in captivity.
It is a walk to freedom for these victims of kidnapping, who were kidnapped across several locations in Kaduna State for 4 months. The victims, made up of 28 women, 24 men, and 6 children. 1 person is still receiving medical treatment. They are handed over to officials of the Kaduna State government by the National Security Advisor. Kaduna State is described as one of the epicenters of banditry. However, that narrative appears to be changing.
We believe it's a journey. Already a lot have taken place. We are restoring order. We are bringing justice. We are bringing back peace to our country. About 59 or so people today. Last week, another number like that. And thousands, and it's ongoing across the country. And it is also a joint operations of all those who are in charge or in the forefront of fighting to keep us
safe in our country. The armed forces, the intelligence community, the civil police, all of us are working as one, and we are seeing the results.
Due to the pressure from our security forces, the bandits abandoned them and ran for their lives, and we were able to pick most of them from those camps, and the others found their way to the major road and to the police checkpoints.
A delegation of the Kaduna State government is elated to receive the rescued kidnapped victims.
This is the second time you are coming here to receive freed captives. The last time was over 40, and you can practically see that we have 58 before you now. These captives were rescued along Abuja-Kaduna way, specifically at Louisiana, and through the effort of the various security agencies, where the effort is yielding fruit.
Beyond the rescue, the National Security Advisor is optimistic that security forces sustained operations against bandits and terror warlords across their strongholds will result into a safer Nigeria.
Staying with security, as part of the non-kinetic approach to ending insurgency, the Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, has confirmed that 789 former terrorist combatants are currently undergoing the de-radicalization, rehabilitation and reintegration program under the Operation Safe Corridor initiative. Speaking at a stakeholders meeting in Abuja, the Chief of Defense Staff, who was represented by the Chief of Defense Policy and Plans, Air Vice Marshal Olatunde, says the de-radicalization program was launched following the mass surrender of Boko Haram and ISWAP members induced by well-coordinated operations.
From the 36 states of the Federation and Abuja, stakeholders converged on the Federal Capital Territory for a meeting on Operation Safe Corridor.
The operation consists of personnel.
The commander of the operation kickstarts the meeting as he highlights the initiative of the de-radicalization program and the successes recorded.
Since the commencement of the program in 2016, Operation Safe Corridor has successfully processed 2,190 clients, comprising 2,163 Nigerians, 27 foreign nationals from Cameroon, Chad, and Niger. All the foreign clients were transferred to their respective national authorities for reintegration. Between July and November 2024, a total of 825 clients were transferred to the DDR camp to commence training.
Since the program's inception, over 130,000 insurgents and their families have surrendered, with over 700 ex-combatants undergoing de-radicalization.
Operation Safe Corridor was initiated due to the mass surrender of Boko Haram and Islamic State of West African Province members, induced by well-coordinated operations by all stakeholders. This has led to over 120,000 insurgents and their families members surrendering since the inception of the program.
The meeting focused on planning the reintegration process for the first batch of 391 ex-combatants into their respective states.
I urge benefiting state governments to facilitate the seamless reintegration of the ex-combatants by providing additional support to ease that transition process.
Operation Safe Corridor was established by the federal government in 2016 to receive voluntary defectors from factions of Boko Haram insurgents and other terrorist groups.
And still ahead on the news at 10, Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPCL, debunks reports of importation of over 200 million litres of premium malted spirit in February. That's business news. Please join us again. Welcome back to the news at 10, broadcasting live to you from our Abuja studios. And we continue with politics. We're promising a focus on quality governance. The senator representing Bauchi South, Senator Shehu Buba, has expressed confidence that the All Progressives Congress will take over power in Bauchi State come 2027 from the ruling People's Democratic Party. He further stated that he is steadily realizing his vision for Bauchi South and will not relent in his efforts to provide strong national representation alongside delivering constituency projects that span various sectors. He stated this during the inauguration of a 2.5-kilometer road project, which he initiated. Our correspondent, Hajar Aliyu, has more.
The senator representing Bauchi South, Senator Shehu Buba, receives a warm welcome from his constituents in Zaranda town, Toro local government area of Bauchi State. He is joined by leaders of the All Progressives Party in the state. The senator had flagged off the construction of the 2.5-kilometer Zarandagari road in October 2024, and the former Speaker of the House of Representatives, Mr. Yakubu Dogara, is here to commission the project for public use.
We were unable to travel the road with our cars, and it was difficult getting our sick to the hospital. But today, we have a new road. We are truly grateful.
In his speech, the senator emphasizes that his interventions span various sectors, including education, infrastructure, water, health, and women's empowerment. He is promising to do more.
The commission of these 2.5 kilometers road in Zaranda is one of the very many programs I have embarked upon for the entire people of Bauchi South Central District in terms of infrastructure development, aside from the numerous welfare programs being implemented.
Mr. Dogara appreciates the gesture of the federal lawmaker and urges the president to intervene in key critical projects in the state.
If the president approves Zungur Bagel Dam, and he comes here in Bauchi to commission the project and work start, we don't want him to come to Bauchi for campaign in 2027. Those in support should raise their hands.
At a separate event, the lawmaker is providing academic sponsorship for some of his constituents. He had previously sponsored over 300 students for the 2024 JAM exam, and over 200 of them who secured admission are now beneficiaries of the scholarship.
This program is a continuous program. Our plan is to forward their names after graduation for the senator to continue with the program.
The senator plans to sponsor more students to study medicine in India. Hajara Aliyu, Channels Television News.
And I hand you safely back to Anne in Lagos for the rest of the news at 10.
Thank you, Millicent. In partnership with BYU Idaho and Ensign College, BYU Pathway has opened a top-notch global education center right here in Nigeria to provide access to spiritually based U.S.-accredited degrees that can be completed in as little as 3 years online and at a significantly reduced cost. So far, about 74,000 students in over 180 countries have benefited from this initiative. And with the opening of the first-of-its-kind center in Lagos, anyone, anywhere can apply to benefit from this opportunity and even take advantage of scholarships and almost 50% on tuition.
Did you know that you could attain quality higher education in Nigeria for less than 400,000 naira? BYU Pathway Worldwide has made this possible with the opening of a state-of-the-art global education center in the heart of Lagos, Nigeria, to serve the growing number of students who wish to attain such higher education certification online. With sponsorship from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the leadership of BYU Pathway Worldwide unveiled the education center at a ceremony attended by church leaders, invited guests, students, and many others.
BYU Pathway provides high-quality, spiritually based, low-cost online education to more than 75,000 students in over 180 countries. This BYU Pathway Global Education Center here in Lagos is one of the first of its kind. It is one of our gifts to the people of Nigeria. We welcome students of our faith as well as those not of our faith to come and join us.
Leaders of the church stressed that the idea behind forging education and education opportunities is to provide a foundation for the development of leadership skills, and also to offer built-in mentoring and support options, especially for the rising generation.
Our effort as a church is to help our rising generation to grow in wisdom by gaining knowledge through education, grow in stature through support for healthy physical development, and find favor with God as they increase their spiritual learning and living the gospel.
Our interest is learning, of course, higher education, but for not just the purpose of the edification, the progress, the development of the individual, but what it qualifies that person to do in life and to contribute.
The building is dedicated to God, and guests are treated to the state-of-the-art facilities in the center. In addition to securing top-notch degrees here, students will also get opportunities to do internships with global organizations remotely, and upon graduation, secure full-time, high-paying jobs with these organizations across all economic sectors.
We have scholarship for Nigeria. If we apply to BYU Pathway, you get almost 50% tuition off through our Ibaje Grant Scholarship, available to both members and friends of the church. Like I always like to say, when God blesses, He blesses everyone. So this blessing is not just for members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints only, it's open to everyone that applies.
The authorities say this will be a place for wholesome activities and experiences that will bring every participant closer to one another and to God. The hope is that leaders will be raised here, leaders who will build and strengthen families, the church, the communities, and the nation at large.
PTML Terminal, the largest multi-purpose terminal in West Africa, has made history with the arrival of the MV Great Cotonou, the first container roll-on, roll-off vessel offering a direct service from Shanghai in China to Lagos, Nigeria. This milestone marks a significant advancement in maritime trade between China and Nigeria, reducing transit times and enhancing logistics efficiency.
MV Great Cotonou, a G5 class vessel which measures 249 meters in length and 39 meters in width. The vessel, operated by global shipping giant Grimaldi Group, is expected to cut transit time between China and Nigeria to just 27 days without the need for transshipment and intermediary ports. Andre Grimaldi says the new direct shipping service will enable Nigerian businesses to receive not only containerized cargo, but also vehicles including cars, vans, trucks, and project cargo, all on the same vessel directly from China.
With the Grimaldi Group, we started 2 years ago to offer service between Shanghai, Europe, and Africa, all Middle East area, connecting with a transit time for the Ro-Ro equipment side. So new cars, new trucks, in general, a new business for us, but it's something that it was a new challenge, but we are now improving. And this year, the target is to create a fast link with the best transit time in the market, connecting Shanghai to West Africa. So directed to Lagos, and then we are also starting to add other main ports in West Africa.
The arrival of the vessel was commemorated with a high-profile welcoming event attended by key figures in the maritime industry. The managing director of the company says PTML Terminal is well equipped to handle the new service, boasting advanced facilities, easy port access, and a dedicated workforce to ensure seamless operations.
This is a service which is really a game changer for Nigeria. It's the only direct service con-ro, which means container and ro-ro vehicles, trucks, cars, connecting the port of Shanghai and the port of Lagos. And this creates, of course, big opportunities for the Nigerian importers and exporters, because there was no direct service before. and this is the fastest in the trade. It takes only 27 days from the port of Shanghai to the port of Lagos, and the ship berths at our PTML terminal, which is the largest multipurpose terminal in West Africa, which is also owned by the Grimaldi Group.
The management of PTML Terminal says it will continue to expand its service offerings, launching these direct shipping routes expected to enhance trade, boost economic growth, and provide world-class logistics solution in Nigeria.
Let's now delve into the world of oil and gas. Dominic Iwewe is standing by to take us through stories in business.
Thank you, Anne. On business news, the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPCL, has refuted reports in the media that it imported over 200 million litres of premium motor spirit in February 2025, calling the report false and misleading. NNPCL clarifies that it has not imported any PMS in 2025 and does not regulate or issue import licenses to private marketers. The company stresses that linking all fuel imports to NNPCL is inaccurate and irresponsible. Emphasizing its commitments to energy security, NNPCL warns against spreading misinformation that distorts market realities. It urges the media to fact-check reports before publication and vow to take legal action against the spread of falsehoods. Reactions are trickling in following the rebased inflation data by the National Bureau of Statistics. One is from the Center for Promotion of Private Enterprise, which attributes the sharp drop to the updated computation base year and strong base effect from last year's high inflation. It also notes that lower spending in January following December's festive surge contributed to the slowdown. However, CPPE cautions that lower inflation does not mean prices have fallen, only that they are rising at a slower rate. Key concerns like high energy costs, currency instability, and transportation expenses continue to strain businesses and households. Despite emerging signs of price reductions in fuel, food, and pharmaceuticals, CPPE says sustained efforts are needed to achieve real relief for Nigerians. It called for policies that will further ease inflation and improve economic conditions. It was a bloody day at the domestic stock market as negative sentiments persist for 2 consecutive days. John Mekwa has details.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the stock market report for the third trading session. We see the NGX closing with negative sentiments. Today, the all-share index is still retaining the 107,000 level, but we lost a couple of millions right here. And so it's down 0.25%, and the market cap is still around 67, but it's so slim right there because we have about 179 all of that. And the big guys are driving this. Everybody seems to be in the red. Investors are determined to take a lot of profit. FBN Holding, UBA, GTCO, Access Co, Zenith Bank, all in the red. And when you look at the counters, you find out it's not just the banks that have been suffering this profit taking. Other counters have also experienced it. So while banking is down more than 1%, consumer goods is also down at the close of trade today, 0.39%. Oil and gas also in the red. Guinness, Honeywell, Flour Mill, everybody is experiencing profit taking. And so what else can we have but the joy of the bear?
And that's it on business news. Back to Anne for the rest of the news at 10.
Thank you, Dominic. Outside our shores, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has said that his country will not accept peacekeeping forces from NATO countries in Ukraine under any peace deal following high-level talks with the United States and Saudi Arabia. Here's Simon Puse with more on this and other international news and around the world in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5.
President Volodymyr Zelensky has reiterated that Ukraine must be involved in any peace talks and says this includes the European Union, Turkey and the UK. He made the comments after meeting Turkey's President Tayyip Recep Erdogan. Meanwhile, Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov says 3 key agreements have been reached after meeting with the US, including reinstating ambassadors to each other's countries. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio says the talks are the first step of a long and difficult journey. Neither Ukraine nor Europe were invited. Both sides announced that they will appoint teams to negotiate ending the Ukraine war.
I think all of us are aware that we need to support Ukraine more and stronger than we are today. I'm glad that all Nordic countries and Baltic countries are so supportive, but all Europeans have to step up when it comes to Ukraine, and at the same time step up when it comes to defense spending at home, because Russia is threatening all Europe now, unfortunately.
Officials say all 80 people on board a plane which crashed and overturned while landing in Toronto have survived. The Delta Airlines flight from Minneapolis skidded along the runway with flames visible, and it came to a halt upside down as firefighters came to the rescue. Here, footage of the moment the plane came in to land before rolling over on the tarmac, and here video from inside the plane of terrified passengers evacuating. 18 people were injured, but only a small number are thought to have been seriously hurt, and investigators are looking into what caused the crash. Survivors say they were suspended upside down in their seats and had to release themselves, dropping onto the ceiling before clambering out onto the snow-covered tarmac.
For me, it was just kind of like the wheels touched down, and then all of a sudden, I was in the window seat on the looker's left side, and then all of a sudden, I just remember being fully sideways, and I was looking down and just seeing like sparks and flames and whatever was grinding against the ground. And then, yeah, it happened pretty dang quick, and we were just upside down hanging from our seatbelts.
Argentine President Javier Milei has denied promoting a newly launched cryptocurrency, which collapsed shortly after he mentioned it on social media on Friday. The crypto coin Libra quickly rose in value before nosediving, causing severe losses for the majority of people who had invested in it. A judge will now determine if the president should face fraud charges over the incident. Israel has pulled its forces out from southern Lebanon, apart from 5 positions, Lebanon's state news agency says. Israel's withdrawal is a key part of the ceasefire, which ended a year-long conflict with Shia militant group Hezbollah. Israeli ministers said some troops would remain inside Lebanon to protect Israel's northern communities. In response, Lebanon said Israel must withdraw completely. It said it would consider the continued Israeli presence in any inch of Lebanese territory an occupation. More than 30 people have been killed in a bus crash on a mountain road in Bolivia. The vehicle plunged almost 800 meters into a ravine in the southwestern district of Yocala. 14 people were also injured, including 4 children, an official from a local hospital said. Bolivia has notoriously dangerous roads, particularly in mountainous areas.
Is that the tree address?
And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.
Thank you, Simon. Welcome to Sports News. Former President of Nigeria, Dr. Goodluck Jonathan, has called on the federal and state government to establish a sports fund to support athletes beyond their active years and encourage youth participation in sports. He made this appeal while performing the groundbreaking ceremony for the new Olympic standard 25,000 capacity Bayelsa Stadium in Igbogene, Yenagoa. The governor of Bayelsa State, Dwoye Dire, says the groundbreaking ceremony marks a significant milestone in the state's journey towards sports excellence.
We're establishing a legacy that acknowledges the importance of sports as a catalyst for personal growth and the development of our youth. We are creating a paradigm shift that ensures our youth have legitimate opportunities to express their talents, energy, and creativity through sustainable, constructive means.
The vision for a stadium is quite good, and from the presentation from the company and the video that we watched, we know that it's not just stadium, but it is a befitting one. In fact, the Akwa Ibom Stadium, I commissioned it as a president, built by Akpabio then. That appears to be the best stadium we have in the country.
The Nigerian Basketball Federation have unveiled its final 12-man roster for the 2025 Afro-Basket qualifying campaign in the third qualifying window, which starts on February the 17th in the Libyan city of Tripoli with none of its NBA star. The Tigers are in danger of missing the Afro-Basket for the first time in 32 years, an unbroken streak going all the way back to the 1993 tournament. The team will be captained by Ike Nwamo and has just 2 local-based players, must win all 3 final games against Libya, Uganda and Cape Verde for a chance to qualify. Feyenoord has reached the last 16 of the Champions League after taking advantage of Theo Hernandez's damaging sending-off to draw 1-1 at AC Milan and go through 2-1 on aggregate. Super Eagles forwards Demola Lookman's goal was not enough for the reigning Europa League champions as they bowed out of the Champions League, losing to Club Brugge 1-3 at home. The Italian side crashed out 2-5 on aggregate. Bayern Munich and Celtic they're heading to extra time as the tie ended 1-0 in favor of Celtic, and both sides are tied 2-2 on aggregate. Benfica and AS Monaco ended 3-3. Benfica progressed to the last 16, 4-3 on aggregate. Meanwhile, the game between Celtic and Bayern Munich is actually 1-1 at the moment. And that sports is back to you, Anne.
Thank you, Chris. And the main news again. Former President Goodluck Jonathan has asked Nigerians to reject politicians involved in electoral malpractices, emphasizing the need for the advancement of the electoral management body in Nigeria. We also told you that the leader of the Pan-Niger Delta Forum in Nigeria, PANDEF, Edwin Clark, died earlier today at the age of 97. President Bola Tinubu, while mourning the death of the Niger Delta advocate, extolled his virtues in nation building. And that's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Anne Nwawadu. Good night and stay safe.